Good morning and welcome to day 9 of the Coronavirus Diaries from Geriatric 1944. And it's April Fool's Day, and the day when we are all seen to be April Fools, falling for the media inflation and exaggeration of this trivial virus, which is a very nasty and in some cases lethal virus, like flu or even the common cold and various other ones, but which has been inflated to enormous proportions by the media because it's a great story. Only this morning the story is that somebody who was otherwise quite healthy has died and they had coronavirus. Well, I'm terribly sorry. These sort of things happen every day. Normally healthy people do die. I remember there used to be stories about young footballers who suddenly collapsed and died on the pitch, and they're 100% healthy and were later found to have a heart condition of some kind. Well, the media likes to make something out of something like that. Good luck to them, but the problem is, with this trivial virus inflated to this enormous level, what's going to happen after we all get better? And in a few weeks' time, the whole thing will be forgotten and it will be life as normal. And then a really nasty plague of an Ebola type attacks the human species. We know what everyone's going to say. Oh, no problem. We'll just self-isolate for a few weeks and we'll be absolutely fine. Well, sorry, you won't be, and it'll attack you, it'll kill you, and it could even wipe out the entire human species, just like dinosaurs were wiped out billions of years ago. And what does it all come down to? The media exaggeration. Anyway, I'd like to touch on something that I said yesterday when I was telling you all about the Claridge's liar, as we called him, because that's how it was covered in the national newspapers, and I wouldn't want to be any more indicative of who he was than that, of course. But I've had various calls and messages from people who've said they found this fascinating, and was there any more to it? Yes, indeed there was. When he made his first statement back in 2002, he said all sorts of things that when he made his second statement in 2015 or 16 were completely different. Of course, in the later period, he'd been persuaded by the police to exaggerate and inflate and make a better story. Well, in the cross-examination, my QC picked up on dozens of these points, and the man got rather flustered and said, no, I never said those things in 2002. I never made that in my statement. The police made it up. The police lie about everything, which was, I thought, rather an unwise thing to say, but still. Anyway, after he'd left for a break, the jury were very intrigued by this and sent a note to the judge, and the note said, look, this man has admitted he cannot read or write. Is it possible that the police made up the statement in 2002 and he just signed it unable to read it, and that explains the whole thing? Well, within seconds, the prosecution, the Surrey police, had come forwards with a document by the police officer who'd taken the statement in 2002, in which she said she read it to him line by line, and he'd initialed every line as having read, understood it, and making it very clear what it was, and signed the whole statement. Well, the judge immediately, of course, put this forwards and explained it to the jury, but why did the police not let the defence know this? It's something called failure to disclose. And of course it would have been very useful to the defence if it had been disclosed earlier, because it would have proved that the man was completely lying either in 2002 or 2016, and he had completely different stories about each. The moment the police realised that they were being accused of actually making something up, they presented this document, which should have been given to the defence ages before. In fact, it should have stopped them using him as a witness, because it was so clearly rubbish in both statements and completely untrue. Anyway, that's one thing I thought was interesting. The jury were very intrigued by this. The jury were also quite fascinated by the guy. I said to you, he was a bit of an Artful Dodger character. And at one point, he actually looked at me when the prosecuting counsel, the appalling Rosina Cottage QC, had taken a moment to examine her notes. Not that they meant anything. And he caught my eye and smiled and winked at me. And I'm afraid to say I couldn't resist smiling back, because I thought, what cheek. This man who is accusing me of completely false things actually dares look at me, smile and wink. Well, the jury also saw this, or several members of the jury did, and one of them looked at me and again raised his eyebrows at me. But it did quite amuse me, because I thought the guy has so much cheek. He had so much cheek because, knowing that possibly in court it would come out that he'd raped his 10-year-old sister, he'd actually decided he'd better change his name so he could do a runner to somewhere like Northern Cyprus. And he did, by deed poll, changed his name completely. And the person who was his witness and who assisted him and filled in the forms for changing his name, the police officer who was investigating everything. I mean, it really is unbelievable, isn't it, the way the police behave. And that's particularly specific at this time, I think, with the police powers being looked at, because the way the police behave is something that's gone very wrong over the last few years, in fact, over the last few decades. If you want to look at my film, Guilty, which was done immediately after I was acquitted in 2018, it is worth watching, and I do think you'll find it interesting. You can get it on www.guiltymovie.com. It's amazing how certain sites get many more views than others, and that one has had so many full-length views. I think almost 60,000 full-length views on that in the year it's been up there. But do watch it, because you'll find it quite interesting and I think fascinating. One of the songs I put in there was originally written for Eurovision. It was called We're Leaving, But We Don't Want To. But of course the whole Brexit thing changed all that. So eventually I changed it and put it as very strong, I think, as implying that the three female officers, or the three witches as I show them in the film, all were told that they had to leave Her Majesty's police force, but they didn't want to. As it happens, that's not quite accurate, because there were two huge major investigations into police behaviour. One was called Operation Hydrant, and they found 27 serious faults in the way the police had behaved and gave recommendations of changes that should be made. Surrey Police themselves also did a major investigation and found several things there that they felt should be changed. Mind you, I noticed that all the things they felt should be changed were minor, trivial things, like the officer concerned should actually be reprimanded, or should be sent on a management course, or should have their personal file noted that they'd not behaved very well. Well, I'm terribly sorry. This is far more serious than that, and I have actually put the various complaints I made that were turned down to the IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct, and they're examining those at the moment. Because to me, when three people are killed, whether intentionally or unintentionally, by the behaviour of Surrey police officers, it needs investigating. We cannot allow these things to go on. Anyway, have a look at, from the Guilty film, have a look at We're Leaving, But We Don't Want To, by the Three Witches, two of whom are rather attractive in my film, and the third of which is grotesque. See you tomorrow.
We're leaving, but we don't want to. We're leaving, but we don't want to. We're leaving, but we want to stay. Party all night,